Hey,
Welcome to the Art of Human Maintenance podcast. We're so happy to finally get this together with you.
yeah, I've been looking forward to it for quite some time. I'm really excited about it.
Yeah. So you and I found you on Instagram um, in my search of biohacking, you know, endless search for biohacking clues and tips and fun things to treat myself right. And I really, really resonate with what you do. I mean, every time I look at your page, I want to go jump in a river and sit under a tree and
Yay.
yeah, right? Like it's phenomenal. Like even just looking at right, Ben, look at him right now. Like how
I know.
refreshed
I know.
and alive you look. Like you look so vital and
Wow.
energized. And I'm so excited to hear all of it. And I did read your book. I have to let you know that Ben was not able to. I took it with me to
Yeah.
Costa Rica. So but he's gonna be the perfect, sort of the layman's,
Right. It'll
like
be a good yin yang.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So and I also want to confess I did not read the last 10 pages of your story. And it
The
was
story or the cold plunging section.
whatever the story, because I
Okay.
wanted to save sort of a discovery
Oh,
for
I see.
this.
Okay.
I don't know if that will add up, in
Spoiler
translation.
alert, I
Yeah,
lived.
okay. There's that.
So,
Like I kind of knew that much. So anyway, I just wanted to put that out there and let you know that I thought it might be kind of interesting to
yeah,
discover a little bit of how your book ended anyway
sure,
together.
sure.
So you have done a plethora of podcasts from what I've heard from
Yeah,
you.
you're number 371. It's
It's incredible.
a bit weird, maybe a little bit OCD, even though I don't consider myself such, that I've kept track.
Oh
I
no,
don't
I think
know
it's
if it's the
awesome.
old jock thing. I don't know what
I
it
think
is.
it's awesome because
Yeah,
first of all, I have to assume you've done so many because of the mission of what we're doing, just to get the message out to remind people they're in charge of their bodies. That they
right.
can do it, right? So I think it's
And that there is
wonderful.
hope
Yeah,
because when you hear the words "you have cancer," it is so terrifying, and we have been so brainwashed into imagining that it's an automatic death sentence that then most people will just release all
give into it.
power to anybody in a white lab coat.
Yeah. It's
Yeah,
the fear. I mean, not from experience, but just understanding the fear right away. You want to go to who you think is qualified, who represents being safe and healthy, who can take care of me. And you go right to that. That's what I would do. I go right
yeah,
to, you just think like I go to the doctor, I go to the hospital, I have to go to the hospital. You assume. And that's what Tana would
right.
always say is you can take a second, you can take a minute to just pause. And that's such a
Right.
huge,
Go inward,
yeah,
get right with it.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Honestly, in this life, I've learned anything you do, you should get right with it first.
That's so wise. Yeah,
There's always going to be something that comes up that maybe you're asking me to do as a friend or that I might not be super comfortable with at the get-go. But if you take a second and find an angle that you are right with, guaranteed it's going to come across way better in the end than if you just kind of force yourself to do it. Energetically aligning with things, I think, is incredibly powerful.
oh,
Hmm.
I think it's not only powerful, it's absolutely necessary. And on in that same token, I think it's really important to take that pause and realize that maybe your answer is no, or even hell no. I'm not
Right.
doing that. And you
Right.
have every right. As you know, one of the things I had to fire three oncologists because I went in very differently than most, having been a therapist and served many doctors as my client. I would hear their secrets and their
Wow.
thinking. and how they treated their spouses or their children or how they felt or thought about them really took them off the pedestal for me. And
Wow.
so, and then I'd also worked with hundreds of cancer patients before my own diagnosis. So when I went in,
As a
I was
therapist, as a
as
what was your official title in
I'm
that
a
position?
licensed clinical marriage and family therapist, and for 15 years, I'm also a certified clinical hypnotherapist. And so I
What?
did a lot of somatic work before there was somatic work. Um, and I specialized mostly in sexual trauma for 10 years. And I think that has a large part to do with why I contracted leukemia the first time. I didn't, it was from 1999 to 2000. Well, it was actually, yeah, it was actually 1997 to 2007. Uh, and I was diagnosed first time right before 2007. And back then, we didn't have enough information about trauma, especially secondhand trauma. And
Mm.
so 40, 50 times a week, I was hearing the most heinous sexual abuse stories or trauma stories, not realizing, especially if we were doing hypnotherapy to help them release, because it's so helpful if you've got a good practitioner, because trauma is here and it's not logical at all.
Hmm.
Can't talk it out. And so you can feel your way out. But in order to really sync with them, I'd close my eyes and try to be there with them 50 times a week for 10 years,
And you,
not realizing I just seen 50, incest, rape, or molestation events every week. And it was seeping into my own bones. Yeah.
That's
and
one of
And
the.
so that's why I think I got.
No, sorry. Go ahead.
um, I assume you didn't have any training in that and how to protect yourself from that.
Oh, no. Back then, especially, and even now,
Sorry.
most therapists and first responders aren't trained in self care at all. They talk a good game, but most of my colleagues are the worst on the planet. And I got to be honest, I was too. We've got a heart for helping, and we're not really thinking about helping ourselves. And
It's
if I've learned anything, I've learned, boy, you got to fill your cup first.
it's a really, really important, as you clearly know from your experience from the outcome. It's so incredibly important, like how a deer shakes off a near attack.
Yeah,
Literally, they can't process their food. They can't digest food if they don't. So
right.
that's why a deer shakes its whole body after a near attack. And then it can get on with its life. Like I think that's such an incredible quick reference that maybe we should start showing to our children and our colleagues or whoever may benefit from that. Um,
Absolutely.
anyway, I think I stepped on Ben. Did you?
No, no, no. You're good. You're good. I was. You kept talking, and it kind of didn't answer my question, but you went where I was going to go. And I've always wondered that with people that have clients that deal with inconceivable levels of trauma. Um, how you don't take that home with you, how you don't try to go to sleep with that at night, like how you get through that. And obviously, you said it's seeped in, and that's always been an absolute mind jumble for me. How there's no training for that. You're
Right.
walking into one of the most treacherous emotional spaces there is on the planet, and there's no prep for it. You just kind of learn how to deal with the clients and get through it and treat them and heal and help them. But there's nothing to take care of yourself. I mean, that seems so asinine to me. I'm just wondering how that's possible.
Yeah, I can't, other than plain ignorance, I can't tell you how that's possible.
Yeah.
And we're trained as therapists to uh, be thinking about the client so much we're not thinking about ourselves.
Sure.
And I can't tell you how many therapists I've seen. It leads to almost kind of a codependent lifestyle where they're thinking about everybody else, but not really thinking of
Hmm.
him or herself. And that's a huge mistake. But I prefaced all that to say that when I actually was diagnosed and sitting before my oncologist, uh, The first one was just this wonderful man from Uganda, this big, beautiful African, and his name was Anatoly Ogundepe. And
It's a
he's the
great
only
name.
doctor that's ever made me cry. One time when I was doing my worst, and I'd been with him for a year, and I mean, things were bleak and my numbers were horrible, and I'd almost just died. I've almost died 3 times, and I feel really cheated because everybody that has a near death experience, they get to talk to their grandma or they see a beam of light or something. Now I was just out and I come back and I see some worried nurse and, oh, we didn't think you were going to make it. I'm like, well,
Like, I want my
yeah,
money back, man.
yeah, exactly. I'm sick, but I don't even get the light that I'm not supposed to walk toward or something. But anyway, one time he put his hand on my shoulder right before I left, and he was like, "Go and be well, my friend." And the
Oh, I
way
love
he
that.
said it was so kind and so sweethearted that,
Authentic. You felt
man,
it.
yeah, I just never seen a doctor care like that. So he was wonderful. But then I moved from Kansas. I lived in Kansas for 34 years because I went out there I grew up in Portland, Oregon,
Mm.
son of two mountain climbers. But then I fell madly in love with soccer. The real name's football, but you can't say that in America. Um, and I had scholarships all over, and I thought it'd be really fun, a lark, to go to Kansas to play soccer because Kansas, I'm a real nerd about history, and a lot of people don't know it, but Kansas was kind of the start of the Civil War. And so I wanted to go there and, go to all these places where John Brown had been and then Dodge City and all this stuff and get paid for it basically and get some credits, not knowing that I'd fall in love with a cute little Kansas farm girl and put myself in exile for love. So I lived in Kansas for 34 years. And
Kansas.
when when yeah, I actually lived in Dodge City the worst 3 years of my life. And when I got out of Dodge, literally, I was very happy. But yeah, it's been a strange life in some ways. But my first wife died of brain cancer, and so I
I'm
in this
sorry. Let's take a pause real quick. What's her
yeah,
name?
yeah. I
What?
guess I shouldn't glide over that,
No,
should I?
yeah, let's be human for a second. What's
Right.
her name? Your first
Her
wife.
name was Mary.
Can
Yeah.
we do a little toast? Cheers to
Oh,
Mary.
absolutely. Yeah.
Cheers to
Yeah.
Mary. Thank you
She
for being with
was.
us today, Mary. She's here right
Yeah.
now because you said her name. And I'm sorry
Yeah.
that
She was
that
wonderful
you went
too.
through that. Yeah.
Yeah. She died 15 days for our 30th anniversary.
Wow.
And it was just, we were of that generation that was so brainwashed in consumeristic society that we were taught that you work really hard. I had 2 jobs from the time, literally, I worked 2 jobs and then put myself through school, 3 degrees, from the time I was 15 to the time I was 42. And just working insane amount of hours, building up this mountain of money so that someday we could have enough to do nothing. It makes no sense. It's adverse to natural law.
Agreed.
Um, and just I turned 50, I'd overcome that first bout of cancer. We were extremely happy. All these dues that we had paid all our lives, never really allowed ourselves to have too much fun because we were serious people and we
Mm.
were serious about being wealthy. And she's gone. She didn't have any warning signs of this gigantic brain tumor. And then she started feeling unwell. About a week later, we had a brain scan. Well, even before that, her whole right side fell.
Mm.
And so we had a brain scan. They found the largest brain tumor this neurosurgeon, who was in the top 10 in the world, had ever seen. And he said that even if we had done laser guided surgery, this back in 2010, that there was an 80% chance that she would have a blood vessel nicked and bleed out on the table, or have a nerve nicked and be a quadriplegic for the rest of her life. And I said, best case scenario, let's say it turns out perfectly. He's like, well, even if it turns out perfectly, we only get 50% of this brain tumor. And then it would probably only extend her life by 6 months. I
Mm.
said, well, what would that life be like? And he said, well, imagine having the flu and a terrible migraine at the same time. I'm like,
Mm.
to live. What if we do nothing? He said, well, she'll continue to sleep more and more and lose more of her faculties, and she'll die in her sleep. And so that's what we decided to do.
That's what I
And
would have
50
done.
days
Yeah.
later, she was gone. Yeah.
Wow.
Jesus.
Yeah. I have whole body chicken
That
pain
makes
right now. It sounds incredibly brutal.
It was for me, and I couldn't. Part of the reason I had a hard time is for 20 of my 30 years as a therapist, I'd been considered a grief expert in the Midwest. And I always thought I knew how I'd handle it. You don't. And insidiously, living in this tiny little rural town 4 miles north of the Oklahoma border, deep in the heart of what I call redneckery, um, if your grandparents hadn't grown up there, you were an outsider. And so, even though I lived there for 30 years and was part of the community, most people, when they saw me, didn't call me by name. And for the first couple of years, it kind of bothered me, but then I just kind of got used to it. They'd say, oh, there's Mary's husband,
Oh, wow.
because my grandparents hadn't grown up there. And, you just get used to the culture. But insidiously, what that had done from my early to mid 20s on to 50 is create my adult identity without me knowing it. Everybody called me Mary's husband, and it was a good gig. Really enjoyed being Mary's husband. But then when she's gone, it was like, who the hell am I
Yeah.
now? So it just shattered me. As a matter of fact, it shattered me. I'd never really cried before she died, except for when my daughter was born, but those were tears of joy. Um, and man, after when she died, I'd written a book. It was starting to do really well. I was doing a lot of speaking. That career was really taking off. I couldn't talk about the weather without crying. And so my speaking career, I was talking to my agent, and
Sorry.
she was like, Dean, we got to get you back on the road. I couldn't even tell her no, I was crying so hard. And
Oh,
I'm like, I
wow.
can't get up. Finally, I choked out. I can't get up on a stage and do this. And she's like, you're right. You can't. Let's give you a couple weeks.
Mm.
And at the time, I'm like, yeah, okay, let's. And the next 3 times we talked, 2 or 3 a month apart, I couldn't talk. I'd start talking, and then it just overtake me. I was just trashed to the point that I called up a couple of my old clients and apologized. I said, I served you. I don't know if I did any good. I didn't know what grief was like. I really didn't. And they were really kind to me. But I just realized that book knowledge does not um, really ready you for experience.
Well, there's a big difference between going through it and holding space for someone going through it. And of course, what you were offering was space for people to go through their
Right.
grief. So, of course, you
Right.
did them a service. There's no way you could have done it any differently. Even if you had gone through grief already, I don't think you just have to hold space for them. You can't do it for them, you
Yeah.
know.
But when you know, they know you know.
True.
Even if you don't say it. I can't tell you how many of my clients, before Instagram and before everyone knew my story, I wouldn't tell my story, especially out here in Oregon. Nobody knew me. And I can tell you, it was probably around 8 to 10 clients. I had this experience within the first 3 to 5 years I was back doing it. They would look at me about the third or fourth session and they'd say, Dean, what's your story? And I'm like, yeah, we're not here for me. We're here for you. And I'd be like, yeah, but when we talk to you, we know you know.
Okay. Yep. Fair
Yeah.
enough. Yeah.
And I don't know how they knew, but we're just those energetic beings that have that unconscious give and take.
You
Yeah. So
probably,
it was
yeah,
sweet. Yeah.
you know when to be quiet,
Right.
which
Right.
is something I need more of. Sorry, I don't
Well,
mean to laugh right now.
No, no. Yeah.
Um,
So anyway, getting back to the doctors, I would go in and I encourage everyone to do this. I'd say, hey, doc, I'm not trying to be disrespectful. I know you've done a lot of work. You know a lot more about this. You're a lot more highly educated than I am, especially in this subject. But let's get something straight. I'm the boss of my body. If I die, it really affects me. I don't think you'll probably even remember me. And you probably won't ever know my family or care what happens because I died. I said, so I've got to be in charge. I will see you as my expert consultant. I will listen to what you offer, but ultimately it's my decision what I do with my body and the steps we take together.
Good for you.
And the first uh, oncologist was so enraged, he threw down his clipboard and slammed the door. So I asked the
no
nurse
ego
came in all
there.
scared.
No
Yeah.
ego at
A little
all.
bizarre to
Yeah,
have
the
that
nurse
kind of
came in
reaction.
scared and she's like, what happened? I'm like, I told him that I was going to be in charge of my body. And she's like, yeah. I said, could you refer me? And so she referred me. The second one, he listened patiently and nodded. And I thought, oh, we're getting somewhere. And then he quietly put down his clipboard and he says, no, that's not how I work. You got to do exactly what I say when I say, or I can't work with you. I'm like, really? And he's like, yeah, it just wouldn't be ethical. And I said, it wouldn't be ethical to let me in charge of my own body.
It's wild.
And so we did that a couple rounds. And then finally, thankfully, I found the world's number three in chronic lymphocytic leukemia researcher. He's just a lovely man, Dr. Juanario Castro, down at University of California, San Diego. And he was so great. A lot of times they'll spend maybe 10 or 20 minutes. The first time he spent an hour and like 30 minutes with me.
Wow.
Um,
Yeah.
just wanting to hear who I was as a person and what I'd been through.
Speaks volumes.
Never been treated so well. Yeah. Yeah. And so I was very fortunate, but I think everybody can be that fortunate if they're, like you said, willing to take a pause and not, even though they're scared and told, the first time I was diagnosed, they told me I had 4 to 6 weeks to live. And
Weeks.
my daughter was 14. And so I was really freaked out. And the reason I was told that is I had something they'd never seen before. I had features of both acute and chronic leukemia,
Mm.
and no one had ever seen that before. And they said, let's hope that one takes over, then we know what to do. And let's hope it's chronic because that buys you a lot of time. But even then, I took 2 weeks because I figured if
Uh,
I got 4 to 6 weeks, I'm gonna take a couple weeks to figure out what I want to
get
do.
this right. I really, 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 really envy the fact that you were a therapist who saw doctors as patients. I feel like you had such a leg up in that. And you're such the perfect, I don't know if leader is the word, but to get this message out because of that specific part
I
of
don't
your
think I'd be
story.
alive because I was so freaked out, as most people are,
Yeah.
when you get that diagnosis. Because I'd never been sick in my life,
Yeah.
and the only reason I'd taken a blood test is because all those years of playing soccer, my left knee was so bad. I'd been waiting for a total knee for 20 years, and finally, I was
Like a
like, you
surgery?
know, yeah.
Okay.
And
Okay.
so it came out in the pre-surgical blood work.
Wow.
And the docs, who is a good friend, came to my office and told me, and he's like, haven't you felt really tired? And I'm like, yeah, but I have for the last 20 years
Right.
because I'm working around the clock.
Yeah.
It was normal
And
to
he's
you,
like,
almost
oh, that
desensitized.
makes sense.
We're
Yeah.
so powerful, honestly. We can handle so much, and that's really the point. Like we
Right,
can handle, you can walk around with chronic illness for decades
right,
and not die and not know it until so your body, the symptoms are not the problem. That's the answer, right? So
right.
listening to the symptoms sooner, usually pays off, but we're such miracles. We have
Really are.
we've been trained not to really showcase the power of what our bodies can do. We've been trained to dull that down and listen to the experts. And that's the most devastating thing to hear is when they give you a prognosis. Like
Certainly. And most
it's
thoughtful ones
that's
will
up to
refuse
me and
to
my
do that now.
creator, right? I'm sorry, what did you say?
Most thoughtful ones will refuse to do that now.
Yeah, yeah, thankfully.
But old school ones still love to be right and to project that kind of nonsense.
Where do you think it, and a question from both of you actually, because I've heard her story, just from knowing her hundreds of times, but I still don't fully understand where it comes from. Something that you both share, which is for lack of a better term, I think it actually fits, the arrogance
Yeah.
to go defiant against the medical industry and be like, no, I'm the boss of my body. I'll listen to you, but I'm running the ship here. This is my body. This is my life. I'm taking a second. I'm doing what I need to do for myself, and I'm trusting my gut. Where do you think that comes from? Where did that come from? Is that something from your childhood? Is that something from, just what gives you that confidence to essentially give the middle finger lovingly and say, no, I'm running the ship? What is that?
I think you
I
just answered it
yeah.
in your question, right? You said we trusted our gut.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
but what is that? Where does that come from? It's one thing to trust your gut
Okay,
is kind of a loose thing.
Right.
What's the backbone of that?
go
Where does
ahead,
that come
Dean.
from?
You go
I
first.
think I had many underpinnings in the way I was raised and just my genetic heritage and lineage. Um, my great grandmother came over from my mom's grandma, came over from Sweden at 14 by herself on a boat.
Wow,
Okay. That
That's
tells you
amazing.
something.
that answers
My
my
dad's folks came over from England on a boat. And so I come from not too far back, some real hardy immigrants on both sides.
yeah.
And then my dad and mom both being climbers. My mom kind of gave the middle finger back in the 50s and 60s when women were supposed to stay home and,
Hmm.
care about their dishes and wear pearls. She's climbing with the guys. She was
Yeah.
on
It's
the
awesome.
sports page, this cute little Swede on the sports page cover of the sports page, which was a big deal back in the 50s in 1952 because she climbed Oregon's tallest mountain, Mount Hood. And women weren't doing that. They had done there. She wasn't the first woman. There had been many women, but boy, that was antithetical to the 50s culture,
Sure.
For sure.
especially a cute little whitey. So
Little whitey.
it it just wasn't supposed to happen that way. And then they made sure I climbed my first mountain at 6, and I climbed Mount Hood, the tallest mountain, at 9.
Wow.
It's
And
in his book.
when
Yeah.
you're climbing and you barely had pull-ups on, and a lot of people don't realize it, but the type of climbing that's done in the Cascades is snow and ice. And you start, unless you're just one of those really fast guys that run up at 6 or 8, or I'm not going to be one of those guys that's going to do it in speed. You start at about 10:30 at night, and you kind of climb all night long, and it gets colder and colder, and you get more and more tired. And Dad would say really kind, loving things like to me like, "You feeling pain? Good, means you're alive." And I'm like, "Dad, I'm not." You don't quit. Hall men never quit.
That's a
That kind of thing.
challenge
Yeah.
to get
Yeah.
a child to do something like that. I have a 33-year-old and she wasn't about it at 9. I'm telling you, it was hard enough to get
I
her to
don't
show
think
up to
I was
soccer
about it
twice.
at 9, but I wasn't gonna. My parents were so loving and so adventurous themselves. I wasn't gonna let them down, you
Mm,
know. And
nice.
then also, I was born in that kind of toxic masculinity. Here I am at 9. My mom's a pretty avid climber, but just because she's female, I'm not going to let that chick show me up.
At
You know?
9. At 9.
Of course.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's
Nobody's
silly
mama's gonna
now,
show
but,
me
you
up.
know, if you put it in time, I mean, we're talking 1969. So
Yeah.
it's still fairly primitive as far as gender
Well,
roles.
that makes sense. That makes total. I figured it was something like that based on just how you were raised and what you're surrounded by. You are what you surround yourself with, and if you were taught to be ironclad and not to back down from anything, and that makes total sense. I think it's. I can't think of a better place to be arrogant and in charge of the ship than when it comes to your own body. That is incredible. I think most people are scared. It's all fear, obviously. I mean, it's all fear. But
Yeah.
I've always marveled at that confidence. So I just had to know the backbone
Yeah,
that was
I
for you.
think it was confidence tempered by, again, I think it might have been arrogance if I hadn't gotten to serve doctors,
Hmm.
or by the time I was diagnosed, I'd already meditated an hour a day for about 10 years. And so I don't like to, I think of it as confidence or a solid identity,
It's a
knowing where
root
I was.
it's a root system. You had a solid root system.
That
Right. I
makes more
was
sense.
rooted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I said, for lack of a better term, ignorance. I didn't mean, or arrogance. I didn't mean arrogance in
Yeah.
an offensive way. I meant it in a positive sort of like,
Oh, I see. Okay.
yeah.
And
Yeah. Never heard
there's
it used in a positive way.
That's why I said lack of a better term. But no, just to be so confident that everything falls to the wayside. I'm doing this.
there's a
That's,
theme here for him
yeah.
that you're ahead of the game in so many ways. That's it's pretty interesting to hear.
Yeah. Whether I tried to be or not. Most of
For
my
sure.
story is just a fortunate stumbling.
And then
Yeah.
my answer to that, you probably will remember me saying, I believe it's grit.
Mm.
And for me, it came from growing up on motorcycles and
Oh,
climbing mountains on motorcycles and camping every weekend and, being put in really intense situations where I had to rely on myself and my creativity to get back safely. My dad was cool enough to let us wander off throughout the day while he was on a ride with the big boys, you kids go play kind of thing. And I was a gutless wonder and I got myself into trouble, trailblazing, like hanging off the edge of a cliff with a motor, like crazy shit. And I know
I'd
like
much
without
rather
a doubt.
climb in a pair of boots than on a motorcycle any
Yeah,
day.
but when I
Each
started
their
at
own.
5, so what did I know? All I knew was this
Wow.
adrenaline addiction, and it what now I know it was my escapism
Yeah.
Yeah,
from,
sure.
their bad marriage, basically,
Ah,
and
okay.
respect to them, but it was tough. And, kids are impacted energetically, and I'm a Cancerian, so I'm very sensitive and my little crab self. Oh, look, you figured it
I
out.
figured it out.
Oh, yay.
Yeah. Our logo was disappearing and it was important. There's a big
Oh, nice.
black
Love it.
square in the background.
But anyway, just to share this podcast, just by the way, is really a conversation back and forth where we're sharing our experiences versus just strictly interviewing you. So I hope you don't feel like
Oh,
I'm cutting you off
I
or
tell everybody, especially those not as experienced as you, I'd much rather have a conversation than just blather on about myself. I get
yeah,
bored with
we
myself very
don't, yeah, we don't learn. We need to learn from each other, in my opinion. And
absolutely.
I think that's why the format of this
Yeah.
is so important to me, that it's a casual conversation and people are going to take away what applies to them and not feel like a bunch of information has just been rammed down their throat. Now there's different perspectives going on and clearly, we're very different people. So it's an honor to share this time with you today.
As it
Agreed.
is
Nice.
for me. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons I don't usually say yes right off the bat, especially because I've gotten very busy again. But just the way you approached me and the initial conversation we had, I could tell, at least I thought I could tell, this is the way it was going to be. And so I was, as you found, in from the beginning. I was like, yeah, let's.
It was funny. I read it back today and I shared it with Ben a little bit. It was like we had a little dance going, like, wait a minute. But it was
Yeah,
good. I enjoyed
it
it.
was very
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So maybe we need to do a sort of a recap, like a bullet point recap of your timeline so far, because we're getting to, I think,
Mhm.
the second act, I guess.
Sure,
Right.
sure.
So if you don't mind.
Yeah. Uh, Grew up in Oregon, moved out to Kansas. It's gonna make me sound
You
so
can't
old.
say
Yeah,
that seriously.
well,
It's
what
hilarious.
I'm not laughing about Kansas as much as when I say the date, you'll be like, "Yeah, it
Oh.
was 10 years before I was born," or something. 1978, I went out to Kansas,
Yeah, that's 10 years
and
Eight.
before I was born. Yeah.
That's 8 years. 8 years before I was born.
yeah,
That's amazing.
okay,
But who's
good
counting?
times.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who's
Yeah,
counting?
uh, and lived there till 2010.
Wait, go ahead. Sorry.
Met my
Sorry.
wife
You did that,
in
Matt.
1979, and we got married in 1980. And just had a wonderful, I mean, not a perfect marriage, but a pretty darn good one. She was just hilarious. Yeah, just she had two speeds, extremely fast and asleep. One of her cousins used to
That's
say
him.
that Mary could solve world peace before she could get her shoes on, and that was kind of true.
That's amazing.
Um,
Mary's spirit lives on through you. That's
yeah. Oh,
amazing.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a privilege. But anyway, so then I taught school. I was a public school teacher from 1984. My first 3 years or first 2 years of teaching were in Dodge City, Kansas. 84 and 85. And then we went back to her hometown. It's a little town that looks like it should be called Arkansas City, but the natives call it Arkansas City, um, or just Ark City. It's 60 miles south of Wichita. And I taught there for 20 years. And the suffering of the kids, even in that sweet little rural town that is kind of like Mayberry, there were still problems with families. Not really a drug problem yet at that time. We had at one point in the 90s, we had the highest teen pregnancy rate per capita in America,
Mm.
which said something. Um, and but just their brokenheartedness, and then even the stress and the problems I'd see other teachers and parents have, it just really made me want to become a therapist. That, and I didn't want to assign my family to voluntary poverty, um, just because I was an art teacher, so I was having a good time. The kids picked me, and after a few years, the older brothers and sisters told their younger brothers and sisters they better be nice to Mr. Hall. So everybody came in groomed.
Nice.
So it was just a sweet time. Had a lot of really good experiences, and would still be doing it probably if it wasn't just the last year I taught after 20 years, as high on the pay scale as I could get. I was making $31,000
Mm.
after 20 years of being a teacher.
It's a shame.
My first year, I started at $13,000, if you can believe that.
Wow.
Yeah, a year. So
It's sort of
that's
insane numbers.
it's just
Unfortunately, I
it's
can believe
crazy.
that. That's
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. Um, and so then I went through the master's program at Friends University in Wichita, Kansas, which was just probably one of the best marriage and family therapy programs. The guy that led it had studied personally under Murray Bowen, the guy who started family therapy. And he was just this brilliant, just one of the kindest men I've ever met in my life. He was the first man I ever met that I realized you could be firm, you could be strong, but you didn't have to be violent or aggressive in any way. He taught me so much about what it means to be a man and not be toxic.
Mm.
I saw him in so many situations where he handled it, and he'd always spin them. They'd come at him real aggressively. 5 minutes later, they're laughing and sharing jokes and asking him to coffee. And I'm like, how did you do that?
That's
I'd never
awesome.
seen men handle any kind of disagreement. And you got to remember, I was raised in the 60s, so I saw a lot of men fight. with their fists. And, we don't see that much anymore, but thankfully, but so this was a real turnaround for me and a real paradigm shift, which was beautiful. And so I started as a therapist in 1990 and been doing that ever since. Then started private practice in 1995 in that tiny little town, and everybody said that you can't have a private practice in a town of 12,000 and it be successful. And I thought, okay, it was kind of like sticking the hook in. I'm like, okay,
He's like, watch,
I'll
I'll
do
get
it.
10,000 of you.
Pretty much is what happened.
Yeah, I
Yeah, I
bet.
had by the time this was in 95, and by 2002 or three, I had a 3 month waiting list,
Wow.
Wow.
and
Yeah.
things were thriving. So I had to quit teaching, which sadly I had to let go, but I couldn't do both. And things were booming, things were great. I was wrote a book that was doing well. I was writing an weekly advice column for several small papers around the U.S., and that was going well. I mean, my career was really taking off. I was almost on Oprah, but the lady that I was going to be on Oprah with, it was kind of a real, I don't want to call her Oprah's pet, but a real special one to Oprah, died right
Oh,
before
no.
we
Oh,
were going to
wow.
go on. And I
Oh,
was like,
no.
and
Yeah, like
being
this.
the sweethearted person I was, my first thought was, shit, now I can't be on Oprah. And then I'm like, what kind of a human being have I become? Um, I mean, things were just really going well until I was diagnosed 4 days before Christmas, 2006, with leukemia. And I was really sick 2007, but started to bounce back. Thought I was going to be well. And then my immune system was so depressed in June. I got pneumonia of 2008, almost died. Woke up several times and I'm like, whoa, okay, you're still here? Like, don't sound disappointed.
What
And
were
so
what were your symptoms when you were diagnosed? Just so people have like
just
a
really
reference.
tired,
Yeah.
but that was it.
Oh, wow.
I didn't
Okay.
have any other symptoms.
For me
Yeah,
with lymphoma, same thing. I was super tired, but I had
yeah,
swollen um, lymph nodes in my neck and armpit. But those are
yeah,
the two. I was like gray with lack of
yeah,
iron. Yeah. But didn't really
yeah.
realize it.
Yeah, and I wasn't as gray because even though I was tired, growing up, my parents were the only parents I knew in the 60s and 70s that had a home gym. And
That's
so,
awesome.
yeah, I mean, I just thought as a human, especially as an adult, you work out. And so even though I was really sick, I was still pumping and
That's the
going on
perfect
long bike
thing.
rides and stuff
Yeah.
like that. So it probably
Head of the
mitigated,
game.
lengthened, um, the diagnosis, of course. And I didn't have lymphoma yet, so there were no lumps or bumps to make me wonder.
Okay.
Uh, yeah. As a matter of fact, I don't know if you have time, but this is a funny aside. By the time I was diagnosed in 2006, I taught middle school for 20 years. Most of those kids were now late teens, early 20s, and they had the, low kind of level tech jobs, assistants. And several of them, when I went in to get this pre surgical blood test, were there, and a couple of them took my blood. And when the first time the nurse said, "Hey, Dean, you need to come back in for a blood test," I'm like, "Really? Why?" She's like, "Well, your blood test came back bad." It never occurred to me that she was talking about me. My thought was one of my sweet little ex students had fouled the test, and I'm like, "Well, don't get anybody in trouble. It's no big deal." And she's like, "What?" And I said, "Huh?" And she's like, "No, come back
What?
in."
Huh?
I'm
What?
like, "Okay." And so literally they took the blood test, and I'm talking to the girl. I'm like, "Hey, you didn't get in trouble, did you?
Oh,
You're
wow.
okay, aren't you?" She looked at me and she's like,
She's like, "Did
"Yeah."
you hit your head? Are you are you okay?"
She's like, "I don't know what you're talking about, Mr. Hall, but I'm fine." I'm like, "Okay, good." It
That's
never
super
occurred to me
funny.
until the doctor came to my office. I'm like, "Oh, bad meant I'm dying." But yeah, so then I got better about September, October of 2008, and just really thrived. because I'd put all the lifestyle protocols for cancer recovery into place. I'd quit eating all the Midwest fried foods. I had let go of almost all sugar. I was married to what I call a Nazi Baptist. So one of the things she made me do, well, she didn't make me do, but she warned me. She's like, "Now you realize I don't drink." And I'm like, "Yeah, I know, that's no problem." She's like, "No, it's going to be a problem." I'm like, "How so?" And she's like, "Well, if you're married to me, I just can't feel good about you drinking." Okay. I'm like, "It's not that big a deal." She's like, "Really?" I'm like, "Yeah, I don't care." And so I hadn't had a drink of alcohol. This was 2010, since 1979.
Wow.
Um, yeah, which
That's
I'm glad I didn't, now that we know what it does to the mitochondria.
Right.
Um, but I didn't have to let go of that. One of the biggest things is I'm so ADHD. My mom kids all the time with people. If we had ADHD in the 60s, Dean would have been heavily medicated. I'm so glad we didn't have it. But I never. It used to drive my parents
Giving you a
crazy. Give me
space.
4 hours, and I'm good. Especially when I was a kid, and so I never slept. And I thought it was like my superpower. All through college, I'd never study. And then I'd get up at about 1 or 2, and I'd study till 3 or 4, write my papers when it was all quiet and nobody was partying or having fun. And I would then, once I was done, I'd go back to bed at about 4, sleep till 6 or 7. And nobody ever saw me study. And they're like, "How do you get such good grades?" But it was that super wired sense of self, I guess. But I started forcing myself. Ben's that way.
But yeah, I was going to just
yeah.
offer him a little moment there to join you in that. Can we
Join me,
share
Ben.
a bit of your story, Ben, with ADHD?
Yeah, tell
Oh
me.
God. Well, which part?
I mean, what part do you think is impactful for people? Like, what's helpful to know? Was any of what he said familiar to you?
Well, what's helpful to know is don't think that caffeine can fix it. that's that's my move. I am a caffeine fanatic because I tried all the,
Oh, are you really?
oh yeah, it's all yeah. In school, they didn't look at, why I was not able to focus or whatever. Instead of looking at, was I just more creative? Did I need a different platform? It was more, let's just shove Ritalin in there and Adderall and Concerta and Vyvanse and all the things. And that obviously throws off your chemical balance as a child, I think. And it
Yeah.
does endless, it's crazy. So yeah, no, I am ADD to the highest degree. And
Are you
it's,
really?
oh yeah,
Do you
no.
sleep? Have you
Yeah.
like me get 3 or 4 hours of sleep? You're good, or
Oh yeah,
plus?
sleeping's not a problem. Getting my mind to chill out and go to sleep sometimes can be a bit of a thing. So I have to kind of exhaust myself. Like last night, I knew I had to be up for a shoot today at 5 in the morning, so I just, which is stupid, but I ate a giant meal to throw myself to sleep, just like get tired and pass out because there was no other way. My brain will not stop until 1:30 to 2 in the morning, and I can't get 3 hours of sleep. It's just not, you know. So anyway, you pivot accordingly, but caffeine's been my savior, which she's not a huge fan of me doing that.
No,
But
I would guess not.
yeah,
No,
For
just
obvious reasons.
it.
yeah,
Well, it's just, I studied. He was expressing to me. We're just getting to really know each other
totally.
doing this podcast together, and he was expressing to me about ADHD, or you said ADD or ADHD.
AD, I think I have both, but I have
They've
ADD.
kind
Yeah.
of
Yeah,
lumped them all
That's
yeah,
together
I
now.
just I just want to be respectful
no, for
and
sure.
kind of know what I'm saying.
Yeah,
Like
Yeah,
I'm learning about that because I don't have, I've not experienced it. But
yeah.
so I did some research on it so that it would help us interact. It would just give me tools to interact
yeah,
with him in this platform. And, it all comes full circle. We're here for a purpose on this
right.
podcast. So the more I know about you, the better time we're gonna have and with you even like whoever we're joining forces with,
Mhm.
we're all gonna be better for it. And what it told me was these are the things that stand out. It was coffee is your enemy, and he's 24/7 coffee.
Excuse me.
Really.
And and then the other was it was an attention thing. It said something about you aren't capable of holding focus on something that you're not innately interested in.
100% true.
Yeah. So
It's I have to I try to have a built-in refresh button, like when you're, sorry, ice maker. When you're like on a screen and it's like frozen, you have to hit refresh on your laptop. I have to have a refresh because otherwise I kind of start to just, I'm thinking about 47,000 things at once and they're all shoving themselves in there, whether it's the job I have to do, a random song, a thing I forgot from last week, a conversation, like I'm humming things. It's wild. It's a storm and you got to control it. Otherwise it'll control you. And I don't want to go back to the medications and all this stuff. So I'm looking at,
Oh yeah.
she brought me this great coffee. What's it called?
It's called Everyday Dose.
Everyday Dose. And so it
Are you
has like some
familiar with it?
natural stuff in there. And have you heard of it?
No, I haven't.
So the guy that created it has a similar story
Yeah.
about ADHD and the pills they would put him on as a kid and how he hated it and all of this. And so he created this product because he loves coffee. And I'm always on the hunt for alkaline or, I love coffee too. Who doesn't love coffee? I know maybe two people,
Yeah.
Right.
And I don't trust them.
But this one has, yeah, exactly. This one has, adaptogens and, the bag's right there. Should we hold it up and maybe we could get a little sponsorship?
Yeah,
There
let's
you
do
go.
it. Get some free bags of coffee.
But seriously, I'm addicted to it in the right way. Like it's so smooth. You don't have any jitters. You can still go to sleep at night.
Mushrooms, collagen protein, neurotropics. So that boosts energies, elevates your mood, gut health, which is huge that no one even looks at that anymore.
Yeah.
And enhances your focus overall. So this is the bag.
Yeah. And this episode has been brought to you by
Everyday Dose Coffee. Thank you for joining us.
But if you enjoy coffee, you might enjoy trying this. I highly recommend it.
Send us a pallet, please. Thank you every day. We love you guys.
Yeah. Anyway, whether you do or don't, I'm a fan and I'm happy to share that's the other thing. I like to share life hacks. And if I find a product or a juice or something, I'm going to tell you about it. I don't care if I'm not supposed to be talking about it. If it's something that's going to help you live and feel good in your own body, let's fucking talk about it,
Yeah.
Because otherwise you're just withholding gifts.
Yeah.
Why would you do that?
Perfect way to say it. Yeah.
That is a good way to say it. I like that. Mm-hmm.
For me, the big change came when I learned enough about the brain through my study of hypnosis or clinical hypnosis to realize that I needed to be meditating. And I really kind of had been my whole life. Everybody's like, "Oh, Dean, how long have you been meditating?" I'm like, really, since second grade. I just used to call it daydreaming back then.
Interesting.
And both I never thought I'd get remarried. But then 10 years ago, 5 years after Mary died, this beautiful fitness model acted interested. I worried about her decision-making skills since she was interested in me. But I was so curious. I'm like, okay, let's see if you're as pretty or even half as pretty on the inside as you are the outside. And she's more pretty on the inside. She's the kindest human being I've ever met. So I fell in love and got remarried. But both of them, within 3 days, if I miss, for whatever reason, 2 or 3 days of my meditation, they're like, "Have you been meditating?" I'm like, "No."
They know.
Would you please? Would you please?
Would you mind?
I had an ex that I would recommend he smoked a joint. I wish I could have got him meditating.
It kind of does the exact same thing for me. I think I go to the same brain places. Yeah.
What kind of meditations do you do? What are your go-tos?
Well, it's kind of this curious blend of mindfulness and some ancient yogic tradition. But then, both my Christians were fairly fundamentalist Christian, or both my parents were fairly fundamentalist Christian. So I've got that background. And what a lot of Christians don't know anything about meditation. They don't know a lot about a lot, sadly, because I don't see them be very curious. But the ancient form of Christian meditation that was handed down through the early church has 3 steps that I use, and I think it fits nature, and that's why I use it. It's emptying, cleansing, filling. And so the first, I'll just do a real emptying, letting go of, and this has been extremely helpful in my cancer recovery, I would let go of any of the hurt, any of the anger, any of the emotion that was hanging on to me from the day.
Hmm.
And then I would imagine I was being cleaned out from the toxic effects of that. And then I would be filled with hope or love. Yeah.
That's powerful.
And I use images to boost that because the unconscious mind only, we try to make healing and work very mental, and that's absolutely, and if we have time, we probably don't. But I've started, now this is what's going to sound arrogant, Ben. I've started my own field of psychology, my own approach. I'm calling it bio-wild psychology.
Oh, I wanted to
And
get to this. Yay.
There
Let's
you go.
go.
There
yeah,
you
it
go.
We have
fits
time.
natural law. And yeah, so uh, we try to heal this nature, this part of nature with the intellect. And that's not natural at all. That's arrogance, is what it is. And it's using 2% of our mind to try to counteract 90% of our mind. And that's just, I mean, it's not a fair fight. It's silly. And so the unconscious only speaks in images and feelings. And so even when I pray, my prayer life is not with speech or language at all. It's images. It's kind of what people call visualization, but for me, it's much more soulful and heartfelt and much more ground in deep feeling with the picture.
Would you say that's in the difference is a deeper intention of the outcome, or does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And to me, it's more authentic and more heartfelt. It's going that 12 inches from here to here, where you're trying to do something, think something, maybe even manipulate God, which I see a lot of uh, certain types of faith-based things doing, and just being authentic and organic and honest, and then trying to use all the power that comes from this beautiful thing that we call a heart.
Nate,
But full disclosure, I'm a Pisces, so I tell you why I went this direction.
I've always found nature to be my God. I was very confused about religion as a child. It was in my sphere indirectly, but kind of directly. Like on the weekends, I would experience it with my grandmother. But my confusion is we would go to her church, and I'm sorry, Grandma, but this is my truth. It felt scary. I didn't feel safe there.
You
It was,
think?
you weren't allowed to express yourself in any way. It was very stoic. It was very white. There was no diversity. And even it was all just so controlled and stiff. And I don't know where I get such trust in my gut, but my gut was like, get out of here. Just
This
get out of here.
Seattle.
This was in Washington State. It was in Shelton, Washington,
Oh,
where
was it
where
really?
my grandmother was. Yeah,
Okay.
I was born in Olympia, Washington.
Oh, okay.
So
Okay.
Pacific Northwest, yay.
Yeah, yay.
Yeah, love it. But anyway, yeah, it where was I going with that? The religion, oh, nature, sorry. Brain fog. Um,
Copy.
nature is what always centered me. Nature. It I knew if and motorcycles brought me to nature, oddly enough, because we went camping every weekend and we had to develop this dance. There's a juxtaposition there with like ripping through the mountains on this motorized, loud, smoky
Yeah.
vehicle
Absolutely.
versus
Desecrating nature.
yeah, except there's a place and nature can handle it. Nature can filter out these things. There's a I believe it all, if it brings you joy and you can balance it out. Maybe I'm justifying, but it's what worked for me. It's what brought
Yeah,
me to nature. We had to
right,
wash our bodies in the ice cold river. I would literally get a purple head and a brain freeze like I've never known. Like it was awful and amazing at the same time.
right,
And we were forced into these uncomfortable positions, which later led to healing and empowerment. With like there's
right,
nothing, anytime I'm on my motorcycle or even walking in nature, I thank my dad for introducing me to that life because it's my roots. It's literally what grounds me into this body, into this earth, and heals my soul. Right. So that's where I felt safe. That was my church. And prove me wrong that nature isn't God. Like, who created this? Like, there's nothing wrong with that being God. I don't have to sit in a DMV style building to recharge myself spiritually.
right. Yeah,
So
I hope not.
yeah, it just didn't. But I don't know where I got the nerve, like you said, to trust my instincts at such a young age. I
Yeah.
just knew. And I mean, I think we're all born with that and then we're taught
Oh, we are.
otherwise.
Because
Yeah,
you have a feeling, you might have a feeling, but to actually let that be your what comes out of your mouth with
Right.
confidence and go against
the
the
grain.
grain, the common the norms that are meant to be there to make you feel safe. Like I'll go to the doctor, they'll know what to do, and these things that you autopilot through to have the gut to go forward with what you know is right is I still can't fully understand.
That's like you and I, Dean. I I don't know if you feel the same way about sort of a pride in how you've handled yourself through cancer, but I have it. I am so proud of myself. I can't even tell you how proud of myself I am. And every day it grows and it blows my mind that I have had the open mind to have the audacity to do something different and to listen to my gut. And God, I think all that is God for that. I don't know, again, I don't really know who to give credit for that, but here I am, you know?
Right.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I don't think I'm as proud of myself as you probably deserve to be. I'm just more thankful that I had a series of fortuitous events or circumstances in my life that then led me to make certain obvious choices based on those events. Um, and I believe that those then can be, and now I hope are being used to help others make those same good choices. I just bumbled through so much of that experience and was so angry and sad and pathetic, especially for the 3.5 years after Mary died. Um, I guess we need to go back to the timeline. Then Mary got sick and died in October of 2010. And I tried to I had this, everything was going. And I just had no bandwidth for that. And so I let everything go, even this fantastic practice where people were driving hours in just to see me. Um, and I was kind of proud of that, quite honestly, until it
There
was
you go.
gone. And living in this tiny little town, even people had called it Mary's Town. This is Mary's Town. And it became very obvious to me two things after she died. Number one, there wasn't a brick or a tree or a flower or a building that didn't have some memory of Mary in it. And so there was no way I was going to be able to start my life over. And then number two, I was Mary's husband. And people like to kind of keep a screensaver on people's identities. that's all I was ever going to be. Nobody was ever going to let me be anything but that tragic character, and I didn't want to live the rest of my life like that. So I moved back home to Oregon, thinking I was going to start my life over, not realizing, oh shit, I lost my wife. Now I just gave up my practice, which had been my kind of male identity, and all my adult friends. And so I was really alone for the next year and a half. And I went from, and then I almost died for the third time, trying to prove to my daughter that I was still healthy and well, even though my leukemia came back. I should tell you this part of the story. As we've found now, and research is beginning to show, particularly for many types of cancer, especially blood cancers, a diagnosis or a recurrence comes 1 year almost to the day of a traumatic incident or a tragedy, and almost to the day, a year after Mary died, the leukemia came back with a vengeance, brought back with at this time lymphoma. I had just gravel all under my clavicle, around my groin, and then I had my lymph nodes under my jawline swelled way up beyond almost my ears, which is really something in my case. And then,
Wild.
and then I had what my oncologist lovingly called my hockey puck under my right arm, because it was the size and shape of a hockey puck. Couldn't put my right arm down. And I went from typically, I've always stayed in shape because I had the parents I did. And at 6'1", I'm usually right around 210 with not a lot of body fat. And usually I'm right around 10%, sometimes 8, sometimes 12. And I got down to 152 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what my body fat was because I don't think I had any.
Yeah.
I was so sick, and
Yeah.
all I did was just feel sorry for myself and kind of angry and wonder what the hell I was going to do. And that was August of 2013. I'd made a point for 2 years of not looking at myself in the mirror because I've never considered myself a pretty boy, but I was ugly with a capital Ugg. It was not, and it was sad because I'd lost everything. But the one thing I realized, I call them hidden pockets of pride. I'd always been proud that I could go longer than anybody. And in any endurance event, people would drop out. I was never the most talented, but I could outlast anybody, always.
That's all that matters.
Yeah, at least I thought so.
Yeah.
Until I couldn't. And I'd look up and see this person I didn't recognize. I felt like I was disfigured. And one day in August, I came into the bathroom and accidentally caught a glimpse of myself in the mirror, and it made me gasp. But you could see my clavicle. You could see the bones in my arms, and my elbows were about the biggest thing on my arm. And then you could see every rib. You could see my pelvic bones. And the thing that got me is I accidentally looked into my eyes, and they were sunken and red rimmed, and they looked so sad.
Do you have any pictures from them?
Everybody asks me that. And, this was 2013. And I'm a boomer.
Yeah.
Who the fuck takes pictures?
Yeah, no, it's true.
When they look like that.
Well, were you ever accidentally in like a group photo or something like that, where you're just, like that kind of thing?
The only real picture, because for 30 years being the one non-Kansan, I'm not in any pictures even from like 1980 to 2010. Yeah. Because I was always taking pictures of the people that mattered.
Yeah.
Back before we had, cell phones and selfies. And no, the only picture I have is on the first day of my swim, June 3rd, 2014. And I thought I looked so buff, and I thought I looked ripped, and I was happy to be there. And you look at it now and you're like, oh my gosh, this guy's really sick.
So
Yeah.
were you having treatment back then when you were 150
I was
pounds and you
going to
had
the
all the lymph
oncologist.
nodes?
That's how I knew I was 152. I went down to Juanerio Castro and they did blood work, and he tried to talk me into doing immediate chemo. And I said, no, doc, by then I decided to do the swim. I'm like, I'm doing this swim next June. Let's do it after the swim. And he's like, you're doing what? And I said, I've got to have a purpose to be alive. I've got to have something I'm passionate about, using Viktor Frankl's work, because that day I'd helped many people come back over the decades using Viktor Frankl's book, Man's Search for Meaning. And I don't know if you know his backstory, but he was a psychiatrist in Austria who'd been taken to Auschwitz. And he found in Auschwitz that the main predictor of those who would survive was those who had a purpose and the degree to which they were passionate about that purpose. And so I knew I had to become passionate about a purpose. And it took me forever to figure something out. But long story short, I decided I'd had a lifelong dream of becoming the first person in history to swim the entire length of the longest river in Oregon, the Willamette. It's 187 miles long, and found out that nobody had yet swum it. And I thought, even if I die trying, it leaves my daughter with the courage, a legacy of courage and hope.
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm successful while I'm doing it, I could show other cancer patients they don't have to be defined by their diagnosis. And so I told him that's what I was doing. And he's like, okay, well, the week or two after you're done in July of 2014, we'll do it.
Do
And
what?
chemo and radiation.
And you were
And
agreeing to
so I
that?
signed on for it. But so I put it off until the swim. And so the only procedures we did was very routine blood tests and some times where they took pieces of lymph nodes to test those.
So they didn't
And,
remove a bunch of lymph nodes. They just
no, they
did
wanted to.
biopsies. They
Yeah, they
wanted
did
to, right?
biopsy,
Yeah.
and they
Yeah.
wanted to, but I said, well, why don't you usually do chemo and radiation first to see if those shrink? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, why don't we do that? Because I really didn't want. And I didn't know how invasive even then, because it was 12 years ago. We've learned a lot since then, how invasive lumpectomies are, and taking the lymph system out.
And do you have a message to anybody today about that decision? Because people are faced with it daily,
Yeah.
whether they take
Um,
lymph nodes or
these
not.
things that were the size of tennis balls, you can see are gone.
Yeah.
My hockey puck, I kind of miss it sometimes. Um,
It saved your
it's
life.
gone. And I still have probably 20 around my body that are a bit swollen, but they don't cause me any problems.
Yeah.
But almost all of them went away, and they didn't go away through the swim. As a matter of fact, my story is such that, to make a very long story very short, because I know we're probably running out of time, it took me 22 days of swimming in 42 to 45 degree Fahrenheit water, freezing my ass off. This was way before I'd ever heard of Wim Hof,
Mm.
and I didn't even know about Instagram in 2014. And nobody was
Was it
cold plunging.
around? Yeah.
I think it was, but it wasn't around my consciousness.
Right.
Um, I'd never heard of anybody cold plunging. As a matter of fact, the Ice Bucket Challenge didn't come out till summer of 2014, and I already swam the Willamette. Um, but
Wow.
I thought, okay, this is the reason nobody in the history of humankind has done this. It's really massively hard and it hurts. And I was going into what's called thrombosis, or deep core throttle, where you can feel your internal organs bang against your rib cage, about 8 times a day. And I'd have to get out after swimming for 45 minutes. I'd have to get out and run in place or do jumping jacks on the riverbank to warm my body up, just to talk myself into going and doing it again. I did that 8 to 10 times a day or more for 22 days. And it's this beautiful metaphor for me now, how the greatest challenge, the most painful thing led to the greatest gift. Because even my Western medicine oncologist was pretty well convinced that it was the cold. As a matter of fact, he was the first one that told me, well, the only thing I can think of, Dean, is your constant hypothermic state boosted your immune system and activated ketosis.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't even know what ketosis was in 2014. Um,
It just kicked your
and
body into knowing what to do.
right.
Yeah.
Plus, I don't know if you guys have heard of fourth phase water or easy water.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, it's water mostly coming from glaciers that is alive
Yeah.
and
Yeah. Yeah.
halfway between liquid and frozen, kind of a plasma. And they're finding now that it has intelligence and reorganizes other water. And
Hmm.
so I'm in the water and I'm water, and it was reorganizing me. The guy that came up with this concept or really developed the research on it is a guy named Dr. Gerald Pollack, and he lives up in Seattle. Has been a researcher and a professor up there for years. I met him because we were both speaking at Alex Zeck's um, Confluence event in May, and I asked him if I could come take him to dinner because I call him the Einstein of water. And he kind of looks like he's like 80, and he's just this brilliant guy. And I thought, man, if I could just sit down with Einstein and pick his brain. Well, the reason he said yes is he'd just written a paper on how easy water is probably should be the treatment of choice for many cancers. And
Nice.
so he wanted to talk to me because there had been no placebo effect,
Mm-hmm.
because it wasn't in my consciousness that this was going to heal me. I thought it might even kill me.
Right.
But the first blood
Exactly.
test I took afterwards, the leukemia was gone.
It's so powerful. And I'm fascinated with water and with alive water versus
Right.
the crap that we think we're drinking for our bodies to be well. It's all so confusing, though. It really is. I'm really drawn
And
to getting water through food, through fruits and vegetables.
right.
So it's
One of
electric, right?
my favorite things now is going up into the mountains as I do every Friday. And I've got this quick, very efficient, it's called a grail. You just put your cup in and then you press on it, and it immediately filters the water. And so you still have all the nutrients and minerals
Hmm.
and pure living water. And I'll get a jug or two of that every week and try to use
What's
that
that
as
called?
it's called a grail,
A grail?
Grayl.
We'll put it in the
It's,
description below. That's so cool.
yeah,
I'd never heard of that.
this has also been brought to you by Grail.
Yes.
Yeah. Attract
Yeah.
it, Dean. Attract it.
Let's
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think everyone should have one in case we get a zombie apocalypse. Because
When?
Yeah.
if you
When?
have one, you can even take swamp water and just push down on this canister and get clean, clear, drinkable water. And mine is titanium, so I can cook on it or do whatever I want. Yeah,
Wasn't it created by the military?
I
Or,
think so. I don't know. I don't know. I
yeah.
didn't look at the roots. The other last piece that people should know about my story is that my lymphoma got very aggressive. My oncologist and I thought it would dry up and go away. It did the exact opposite. Started really taking me over. And so once again, he wanted me to do chemo and radiation. I said, Doc, nature healed me once. Give me a little time to see if I can find a way for nature to heal me again. He's like, oh my gosh, really? And I'm like, yeah.
The
And
eye
then
rolls are
within
real.
2 weeks, I found Dr. King Lee from Japan and his research on forest bathing. He'd taken groups of men with cancer out into the forest, had them do mindfulness and sensory experiences out there, and he called it forest bathing. And So the cool thing about his research is he found he was only taking them out for an hour or two and he found that it would boost what's called their NK cells, or natural cancer killing cells, by 50 to 200 times for 2 weeks. And
Jeez.
because
Wow.
what he found is there's an essential oil or aerosol that comes out of trees, especially pine, cedar, and fir, that boosts your immune system. So I told my oncologist, he's like, okay. I said, give me 6 months. Tell me what number is the time we need to shut all this down. Give me a max number on my white blood cell count, and tell me what I got to do this thoughtfully. And he did. And he said, at first, though, I want you to take a blood test weekly, because it was growing so quickly. And so I started going out, and I thought, okay, I'm not that smart, but if they're doing it an hour a week and it's lasting for 2 weeks, if I go out for 24 hours every week, maybe this thing will snowball and become exponential. And so I started at May of 2015, and by March of 2016, my lymphoma was gone.
Now, do you want to explain to people what exactly that means? What were you doing in forest
I
bathing?
would headlamp every Thursday night in, and this was the only part I wouldn't
Okay.
probably suggest.
Wait, did you
You
say
know, it was
headlamp in? What does that mean? I'm
I would put a headlamp in after work,
oh,
and at about
literally.
9 p.m., hike in to a very remote area of the Mount Hood Wilderness. And I wasn't scared because growing up, I tell people I was raised by wolves. So I was very comfortable. The only thing I wasn't comfortable with is the one predator the Mount Hood Wilderness has a lot of is mountain lions,
Hmm.
and they're nocturnal hunters, and you never really hear them coming because they come from behind. And this was like an eat at Joe's sign. So I was a little twitchy coming in, but I'd hike about 2 or 3 miles in, and then get a mile off the hiking trail in this beautiful little nest of very friendly 100-foot firs and cedars, just a sweet little cocoon. And I would put up my backpacking hammock. I'd take very little to eat or drink in, and I would just watch the stars if the clouds were gone. I would just pray and meditate, fall asleep. And it's still hard for me to tell people because I was raised in the 60s. There were many, many nights in the years from the time Mary died to the time I started doing this that I'd cry myself to sleep. But I never once woke up crying until the first night I went out there. And that made me really curious, and it made me really ahead of the curve start looking at vibrational frequencies. And now, in the last 10 years, we've had so much really good, solid research showing that we are bioenergetic beings living on a battery,
Yeah.
and trees are antenna, and they create literally a force field. And I was putting myself unknowingly at the time in this beautiful healing force field, and it was pulling that grief and that trauma out of me.
Detox.
And I was so alone that I would break cultural training and let my body release in the way it was designed to release. And I think that's one of the big reasons the lymphoma stayed, and one of the great reasons lymphoma healed. I think what we're going to find in the next 10 years is trauma can't really be healed without water, and grief really can't be healed without trees.
Oh, that's beautiful. I'll sign up for that for sure.
Hope so.
Did you ever have any run-ins with the mountain lions at all? Any encounters of any kind? Sorry, I always
Well,
think about when I'm hiking, I always think about
no.
that. So I'm like,
I'm pretty sure I heard bear a couple times, but they might have been elk. And that scared me pretty bad. Um, Mountain lions, you don't hear them until they're on you. The closest I ever came is I fell in love with Bobby. And I told her, hey, even if we start living together or get married someday, I said, I'm still going out Thursday nights. And this is what made me really fall in love with her. She looked at me confused, and she's like, why would you ever stop?
Yeah.
I said, well, we'll be married and you'll probably want me to stay home. And she's like, oh, I'd love it if you would, but I don't want you to be anything but yourself. What? And she
That's
was
so
so
cool.
confused that it was so authentic. I was like, oh, gosh. Well, anyway, I said, but you're always welcome to go with me. And she's like, well, I'd kind of like
Nice.
to know where you go and I'd like to try it once. Well, it was December. And so we snowshoed in at about 9 o'clock in about 3 feet of snow. And there was some fresh powder, and we're going in, and about a mile in, I see these huge mountain lion tracks. And I'm
Ooh.
like, oh shit. But Bobby's, a city girl. So I'm like, it's dark. She's probably not looking down. She probably won't see him. And then I hear behind me, are, are, are these mountain lion tracks?
Oh
And I said, yeah, baby, but they've got a 500-mile radius. They're long gone by now. And I said, tell you what, though, why don't you walk beside me? Because I knew if they attack, they're getting her first.
Yeah.
yeah.
And I didn't want to tell her that. And so I didn't want her to walk in front of me because then she'd think I was, letting her be the guinea pig. And so we went in, we stayed the whole night, but man, that's the only night I've been real jumpy. But we
And
didn't see any. Yeah.
and you would only go at night? That you would you never go
Yeah,
during the day
because
because of work, or
yeah, mostly because of work. And
that's
so what I
beautiful.
started doing is working only Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, hiking in Thursday so I could stay all Friday and then I was falling in love with Bobby, so flirt with Bobby all weekend long. Um, Now, since we're married, post COVID, because, this is when I started going a little conspiracy during lockdown. We've got to maintain distance, but the one place we can maintain distance, you shut down. I can't go out into the forest.
Yeah, yeah.
I almost snuck in, but then I thought, okay, I'm going to be the guy that's caught and made an example of, and I'll lose my license. And so,
Mhm.
so I waited for the 6 months or however long it seemed like forever till they let us start going back in. But ever since, I just go out about 6 a.m. Friday and stay until about 6 or 8 on Friday night.
It's beautiful.
So that's your
Yeah,
every
it's my
Friday.
most treasured practice. It really is. Yeah, I think everyone should do it.
So your
Yeah.
videos that I see, like your reels that you post on Instagram, is it the same river every time that you're sitting in? Are you
Most
mixing
of
it
them
up?
are, yeah, my daily swim spot that I'm going to go have a good swim in as soon as we're done is the Clackamas River. And it's one of the cleanest rivers in Oregon. As a matter of fact, the water quality is cleaner than the drinking water in France, which
Wow.
I don't know if that says something about the French, but,
I think it does.
um, and it's so much fun because I see trout and salmon underneath me many days and eagles above me, and I'll swim. Like today, I'll be swimming a mile or two downstream, and I'll get about 8 yards a stroke, and then I'll turn around and get about 2 or 3 inches a stroke. I call it the training of truth because no matter how many times I do it, my brain, I've been doing it almost every day for the last 4 years, my brain will scream, "You're not going to make it. What are you going to do?" You know, but I always do.
Oh, so
So
what?
it's
You
great
go
resiliency
downstream
training.
and you go back up it again. You don't get out and go do a jog up back. You just do that is you are a different beast,
It
built
it
different
built
it's
breed.
differently.
it's real.
Yeah,
I believe
it's
in
amazing.
order to be hardy, you've got to train the brain to be resilient, and that's
Mm.
one of the best things of cold plunging as well. I've been doing it every day for the last 11 years, 11 and a half now. And my brain this morning, it's like, save yourself. You don't have to do this. Don't get in. And you just learn to turn the volume down and you get in, you
Yeah.
relax, and you're always glad you did. But in our modern culture, we're taught to do the exact opposite, to try to train yourself to be comfortable. But by doing that, you're actually making yourself less hardy, less resilient, more weak. And I think that's got to change. And so, would I do this just in a masochistic way? No, if it wasn't my form of play, I wouldn't do it. But to see those, it's so clear. I can see every rock, every pebble, every piece of garbage. Thankfully, there aren't many.
Mm,
Um, and I know exactly where I am. I get to see fish, I get to see eagles, I get to see these huge Douglas fir above me. So it's part cold water immersion, it's part nature connection, it's part exercise. But I don't have to share a lane with anybody. I'm not getting
Mhm.
kicked or elbowed. It's just this beautiful, playful time
well, it's
for me.
primal. I mean, the fact that you get to see eagles while you're doing
Yeah,
it, like what a treat that is.
right.
Like
Yeah,
a
it's
Well,
pure
and
treat.
part
amazing.
of the primal is getting to be challenged by the screen. Yeah,
For sure.
yeah,
There's a lot of primal about it, honestly.
right.
So I have a question, and I don't know if you'll have an answer. That's okay. Um, there's been some research that I've found that indicates that cold water, cold plunging, whatever you want to call it, is not as good for the women's bodies as men.
I was wondering if we were going to
Pinky
get
has
to
an
that.
answer.
Yeah,
So,
it's total bullshit. The
okay.
research was poorly done only at one time by a limited group of people and with an obvious bias. And then I won't say the exact podcaster's name. I used to be a big fan of hers. Now I see she's kind of an ambulance chaser and a clickbait
Mm,
chaser. She knew what she was doing. She promoted herself just 2 years ago as somebody who really knew cold plunging. Why? Because she'd done it 5 days in a row. Okay, that doesn't make you an expert. Um, uh, I was concerned because you must imagine how my Instagram blew up with those questions because about
right.
68% of my followers are women. That's a heavy part of my demographic. Um, the first ice plunge company or ice tub company in America, really the world, was Morosco Forge, and I was their first ambassador. Um, and they're out of Phoenix, Arizona, and they've just become really good friends. The guy that runs it, he's now the sole owner, and is the founder. His name's Dr. Thomas Seeger, and he's just brilliant. Just one of the finest minds you'll ever meet. I just love hanging out with him. Anytime I go to Phoenix, we get together and I'll ask him a question, knowing the answer is going to be an hour or two, but it's never boring. It's just like, oh, give me more, because he's like, well, Dean, is that too much? And I'm like, no,
No,
give
you
me
have a
more.
curious mind, so
Yeah,
that's
and he's just
food.
fun. And so I asked him, and he pointed out about 15 reasons that was total bullshit. And so I trust him, and he cited all sorts of references. I knew experientially and anecdotally it was bullshit because I've had hundreds of women use cold plunging and overcome chronic illnesses and all sorts of wonderful things. Um, I think we are such a comfort culture that when it's hard, we're suspicious. And when our brain screams, we think we need to listen to that. And
I
I
was gonna,
think,
I was
quite
gonna,
honestly, this podcaster wanted it to be bad for you, so she never had to do it again.
Of course.
uh-huh.
What were you going to say, Ben?
Oh, I was just gonna say the thing you said earlier was so. I think it's something most people don't know how to deal with is the volume button. Being able to
Yeah,
turn the volume down is a huge thing that people don't, I think, know how to do. And I think I don't think we're teaching to be comfortable. I think we've just made it comfortable. We've used technology and convenience to make everything so easy and so you can order a friggin' car while you're on the couch hanging out. You can, I mean, it's insane. You can order your whole grocery list while you're just like chilling. It's things are not active based anymore. There's no benefit to general people, no benefit to doing the hard thing, to putting
right.
yourself in uncomfortable places, to shock your mind to whatever. So it's not it's no surprise really. That's why cold plunging got so popular. People don't go on like rigorous hikes anymore, except for some people like you and whoever else. So they, oh, I can cold plunge, and it's the one thing that's in my life that's hard, and I do this thing, and it became this huge fad because most other places in their life they're not doing the hard thing. They're not pushing their edge ever.
Right.
There is benefit. There's not incentive.
What do you mean?
You said there's no benefit to doing the hard thing.
In their mind.
There's a lot of benefit
In their
but there's
minds.
no incentive, which is
Right.
why that's in their mind.
Yeah,
The
definitely.
incentive
sense.
is this is quick fix. That's
Mhm.
there's an incentive there.
Path of least resistance has become more prevalent than ever. It's what we all look
Oh,
for. The path of least resistance, and what gets you there is it's everywhere. It's on your screen, your phone, your iPad, laptop, every website you go to. All the things that we use and do every day is like this. It's that quick now. So it's like you look for the quickest thing. There's no patience anymore for anything. Believe me, I know. That's how I live. I look for the fastest way.
as do I. I mean,
Yeah.
especially since COVID, I'd rather have an Amazon box show up or Uber Eats bring me my groceries than me spend an hour in the grocery store.
I don't even like to go to grocery stores. I like to go to markets because I don't trust the food in grocery stores
That's
at
well
all.
said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you, Dean, if you you're promoting this lifestyle that you live and that has worked well for you. I see that you're promoting it. Have you come up against any kind of intense resistance in the form of like lawsuits or anything like that? Like people
Thankfully not
really,
yet. I
okay.
get a lot of hate that was hard for me to know how to handle at first. Um, because at first all I was just telling was my happy cancer recovery story.
Right.
I'm
And
like,
fuck
and
me
I would
for
just
that.
text them back. I'm like, I'm just an old dude that had a miracle. Why are you
What's
calling
the
me an asshole?
problem? Yeah.
Well, that's the
What's
same thing with not to cut. Please don't forget where you're at, but just to put a thing on that because that's the thing that happened with Joe Rogan. Not sure if you guys like him or don't like
Oh
him,
yeah,
but
yeah,
the whole thing with he was just sharing what worked for him, and people they tried to say he was taking horse dew, like all this stuff,
yeah,
decolorizing his
yeah,
video, making him look
yeah,
sick, like
yeah.
the most ridiculous stuff. And it's like, why would you not want me to share what's working?
right?
It's just an experience. You don't have to try it. Don't do it. Just it's working for me. Just thought I'd tell you.
Yeah.
Like it's such an amazing world to live in now. It's
So,
all hyper reactive. It's crazy.
yeah. So you've
Yeah.
had some pushback, but
Yeah.
Oh,
nothing
ton. Yeah.
debilitating.
I always
Yeah.
know when I've learned now, because I've been fortunate enough to have several viral posts. When a post is going viral, it's to the proportion that people are getting nasty.
Mm.
Um,
Mhm.
yeah, I've had people say, "Well, if you're so smart, why isn't your wife still alive?
Oh,
It's a good thing she
Jesus.
died, fucker." Stuff
Yeah.
like that. I'm like, "Hello, what?"
So bizarre.
Yeah, at first it was hard to bear, but then I thought, well, again, one of the mantras I used for both of my world record swims is if it was hard, everyone would do it. Um, and I want to reach as many people as I can. And if I'm going to be in the public eye, I can't decide to only be in the eye of those people who are nice and going to love me.
Mhm.
Good
Um,
point. Yeah. Well
and
said.
so I just accept it. And Bobby, my wife, is a fitness model and a trainer, and she teaches people about longevity. She's 2 years older than me, but looks about 10 years younger. And but I tell everybody I've had a hard life. But she's getting a lot of hate for looking good.
Oh, I'm sorry about that.
Yeah,
It's not
well, it's just
surprising.
you just if you're gonna get bigger numbers, you're gonna realize that not everybody's gonna love you, and that's just our culture and kind of the sick side, the seamy side of social media. But thankfully, I've learned as a therapist how to be fairly careful. A lot of people will ask me for medical advice, and I'd be like, unless I'm coaching you personally, I can't give you any medical advice. I'm not a trained medical provider, those disclaimers.
Yeah.
And I know how to dodge some bullets, but, stuff can come out of the blue and may still, I sure hope not. But thankfully, I haven't I've had people be really, well, I'm going to start a campaign to ruin you and your life. And I'm like, well, my life's already been ruined a couple times. So
Yeah, how much of
go
that
ahead.
do you think are actual bots though,
That's
And
something I've learned to look for. And I only learned that when that whole thing happened to Rogan and he was talking about it. And so now I look to see if there's an actual picture of a person, and if there are any posts and how many followers. And what I
yeah.
found, if there's this weird cartoonish post or a picture or just a blank and zero posts, it's probably a bot.
It's also
And
if it says like, Jerry 55 64 31 26, and it's like some random amount, it's just like some
yeah,
name or some foreign
yeah,
name with a bunch of numbers and like random it's yeah.
And I
yeah,
think there's something we can learn from these bots. Like use that theory to train your brain that anyone who's talking bullshit about your good intention, they're just a bot. They're just a bot. They literally are. Like
or
who the fuck goes on social media to be shitty? Like
yeah,
what's your intention? To me, you're a bot. You don't matter in my head unless you're teaching me something that I didn't think about. But your delivery will say everything about whether I listen to you or not. If you're a bully, if you're a
Mhm.
dickhead, like bye. No,
Yeah, I agree.
you
for
know?
me, I've lived so long and was raised in a time in America where I had certain very strong beliefs about America and our place in the world. I was very patriotic. My dad literally was a Marine Corps drill sergeant the first 4 years of my life, so that would have been the short way to answer that one question about
That
stubbornness.
says a lot. Yep.
Um, and now I've had the time and the um, life experience to confront some of that brainwashing and those cultural mantras, if you will. It's easier for me at my age, and I don't know, maybe I'm settling down, but it's easier for me at 65 to realize, well, I could have been that big of a dickhead at one point in my life. I hope not, but I had certain very strong beliefs that I was right in certain ways and other people were wrong, and I would fight them for it. And now it just seems silly. So for me, when a person comes at me really aggressively, I used to try to be very spiritual and offer a blessing every time they would offer a curse. And then I found that it just kind of put me on some kind of weird bot or troll list. I would get avalanched then. And so I just no longer do that as well.
Yeah,
But
good
I
for
do
you.
it in my heart. I try to anyway.
All right,
So
great.
I do want to ask something, and you just leaned towards saying you don't give advice, but I'm curious as like cancer, um, I'm so over the word journey.
Yeah.
You and I both Ben has never luckily experienced cancer in his body. You and I both have and do and are doing great. So you probably get questions all the time, as I do. I get phone calls daily. I had two just this morning, and this leads to this question. And feel free to answer it off camera if you want to.
No,
But if what advice would you give to somebody that was just diagnosed with colon cancer that's metastasized to the liver? The specific question I have is, would you do a colonoscopy? And if they found polyps in the colonoscopy, would you be willing to let them remove them at the time of the colonoscopy? Or versus some type of other avenue that's biohacking or what do you call it?
barrel having.
Having, yes.
Yeah.
End of
Um,
question.
yeah. There are basically three things I tell everybody. First, uh, find whatever way you can to be your own best advocate. Just don't believe anybody or take anybody's word for it. It's not their life, it's yours. And okay, in the 50s and 60s, maybe you couldn't get the information. But now it's on your phone.
Yeah.
I mean, it's probably already in your effing hand. Ask some questions. And now with ChatGPT, ask several questions in a moment. Be curious about your condition
Yeah.
and find out what your options are. And then ask around and maybe find the experts, even the world experts, if you can afford them and get a hold of them, and find out what they think about your options and get different people from different fields of study so that you can make the best. This is much, people spend so much time building a house or planning a vacation or buying a car. People do so much research on those things, but then they get cancer and they're like, okay, I'll do whatever you want.
Well, and
One guy,
they also bat eyes at the money involved. And like, if you're gonna spend money, now is the time. Like, pick what you want and go for that. Fuck
yeah,
the price. Like, you're
I
worth
was
it.
working, I was working with the guy and he's like, oh, Dean, I don't have time for that. I'm like, you just bought an $80,000 car and you took pride in the fact that you spent 2 years investigating, researching, talking to people, talking to owners, talking to dealerships. But it's
Yeah.
just a damn car.
But your core isn't worthy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I said to him. And it kind of finally the lights went on. He's like, but it costs so much. I'm like, how much did all your pre-investigation? Because he even went to different places in the US and to Germany just to check out this car.
And you spent 80 grand on a car.
Yeah,
Like, why not for yourself? Yeah.
exactly. And the lights finally went on.
It is
So the first,
perspective for sure. It's
yeah,
sometimes people need to gently be led to like, wait a minute, like
right,
none of that shit matters if you're not here or if you don't feel good enough to get in it and drive it. Like
right,
get back to you first and then the other things, are the cherry on top.
right. And I told him, you know, on your deathbed, you're not going to be thinking about your car problem. As much fun and as nice as it is to have it, I've sadly watched a lot of people die and been with a lot of people as they're dying. Nobody gives a shit about their car or their house or their career. The only thing people care about is what they didn't get a chance to do, mostly what they wish they would have done or could do again with the people they love. That's all they care about.
I want to shout out my daughter real quick. She recently said something that was very wise. She said, I've realized I don't want a career. I just want a job that gives me a good life, that affords me a good life. And I was like, who the fuck are you? Yeah, that's it
Way
right
to
there.
go.
Yeah,
That's
she's
cool.
like, I'm not a career person. That is not me. I'm like,
Yeah. That's cool.
Think
and
any
it's
of us
beautiful
are.
that you even know the difference, like amazing. Yeah. It just made me
Yeah,
very
so
proud.
the first is be your own best advocate and take some time and really figure it out. Um, the second is talk to other, I guess is part of the first, is talk to other cancer patients and find out what worked for them in similar situations. And then the third is, and this is a deep belief system, there are kind of two prongs to this. The first, even before I knew how powerful nature was, I knew how powerful our nature was. And I have this deep seated belief, and now research is proving it. Unless you've just been poisoned, what the body creates, the body can heal.
Hmm.
And the body is a miraculous healing machine if you put it in the right mindset and do the right sorts of things. And then also, the greatest healer of all is nature. And since we are energetic beings and live on this beautiful power source, the reason we're all so anxious, addicted, depressed, and sick is because we're like cell phones that have never been recharged. We take better care of our cell phones. We plug them in and recharge them every night because we want them working efficiently the next day. And we never plug ourselves into the planet and recharge ourselves and then make great demands on our efficiency and wonder why we're not very efficient or effective or have much power. We don't have any charge.
Yeah.
Well
So
said.
So, what is your take on electric cars then? And I ask
yeah,
this because this is kind of a Ben and I experience. I was going to a place, um, a quantum healing place after whatever part of my journey. I was going to a quantum healing place and doing all this energetic work through sound and light and all. It was a beautiful experience. I recommend it every time, all the time. If you can't get into nature and do it straight from that source. But the guy that owned the place pointed out to me, because I said something about a Tesla and riding in a Tesla, and he said
and he jumped.
he said you're literally counteracting the work you've just done if you're riding around on a battery. So I'm curious what your input is with that.
I don't stick my head in the microwave for a reason.
It's messed up.
I don't own a
Mainly because my
microwave.
melon's probably too big.
So
But
straight to the point. That's
but
great.
no, I've never been in a Tesla. I never will be. No way on God's green earth. You're surrounded by EMF and you're energizing it and fueling it. Yeah, I won't live by a power plant or under a cell phone tower. Um, there are reasons for that. They're antithetical to nature's vibration, and they cause a dissonance in our ability to maintain our own healthy frequency. And
Yeah.
so, a ride in a Tesla, I it would be interesting, and I'm sure there's probably been a study how many cigarettes you would have to smoke to equal 1 hour in a Tesla.
Wow.
Yeah,
Is that a
I think
thing?
it's that bad for your health.
Really? Wow.
That's an
Oh,
interesting.
absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, I think they'll probably be outlawed unless, you know, I don't want to sound conspiratorial, but unless they just want us really dying quickly and
Right.
being really unhealthy, um, I think they'll probably be outlawed in the next 10, 15 years, if not sooner. I just don't think
Interesting.
that kind of technology can continue unless they find a way to insulate them and make them safe.
Right.
And they haven't. So, yeah, I don't think.
And he mentioned that there would be ways that you could counteract it and ride in one fairly safely. Do you agree that exists at this time? Any kind of
You
like
might be knowing things I didn't know. I don't know who you're talking about. I think some of that might be new age bullshit.
like
Um,
Faraday? Do you believe in the Faraday bags or whatever those are called? Isn't it Faraday?
yeah,
Like you put your
I
phone in this.
yeah, I know a little bit about them, but I just know nature, and
Yeah.
nature has its own rhythm and its own frequency. And we are just now learning about what that means. You know, I just learned about easy water, me. And I'm a readaholic. I'm reading everything I can get my hands on because it's important. And I just learned about that 6 months ago.
Right.
And
Yeah.
it's been around for about 4 or 5 years. Um, they're making computers now. They've already got the prototype that is not energized by anything electric that you have to plug in just by this easy water.
Oh, interesting.
They found that this easy water moves on its own and can be its own energy source.
Amazing.
That's
And
wild.
so it, unless it gets blocked by the, fossil fuel consortium, and it certainly could, we've got the potential of non-polluting renewable resource energy in the next 5 years easily, especially with AI. Um, and so there's no reason to put that kind of shit out into our vibrational zone that happens like in an electronic car. Maybe what they'll do if Elon Musk survives his um, uh, now that he's been called the Antichrist. Um, if they let him live, he'll probably find a way to fuel the Tesla with easy water or something like that that won't just spread the EMF. But I think they're going to find that that's really toxic. I think they'll laugh at us driving Teslas like we do doctors smoking cigarettes in the 60s.
Mm, so
Or,
American
or
of us.
vaping today. A lot of my friends are doctors are vaping.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah. Yeah, they're fully
Wow.
because they work those crazy, 7 p.m. till 5 in the morning shifts, and they need something to push through and say that's their justification. It gets me through, and I'm not smoking cigarettes, but the vapes are worse, and it's just yeah,
Yeah.
it's out of sight, out of mind. Whatever gets you through the night.
Well, I think it's a testament to where we are as humans. Just we need vices. We need a way to get through the fucking day. Why? Why do we need these vices? We're doing shit wrong. We're being bombarded with all of these things, the pressure to do more, and we've gone over what's wrong. There I go again. But
Yeah.
but there's a reason they want that. And it's not their fault, it's
Right.
this culture and
Mhm.
and
Well,
we're
and
we're so
it's their
backwards
innate self looking for a fix without knowing where to go.
for sure.
I call it the wild self.
The what?
You don't see, unless a 2-year-old's being abused, you'll never find a stressed out 2-year-old. Okay. They
Right.
are all just wild and free. And all of us were at one time too. And recovery and becoming a beautiful human being isn't about fixing anything. It's just about remembering who we were and returning to that wild self.
Yes.
And I don't believe you can do that apart from nature. I think you have to. I was a very different man just in 22 days, not only physically, but on June 3rd, I couldn't still say Mary's name without crying. And then on June 27th, because we took every Sunday off, because quietly my parents were helping and they're very Christian. But for me, I'm so perfectionistic that I wanted to do something nobody had done in history. I wanted to do a world record and do it imperfectly and prove to myself I didn't have to be perfect even to do a world record. So that was my motivation. But it took me, we finished June 27th and then had this big celebration dinner. And I was talking and laughing and telling funny Mary stories. And my whole family looked shocked. And my brother in law was like, "What the hell are you doing talking about Mary?" And I'm like, "She was hilarious. And I was married to her for 30 years. And he's like, "Dee, you haven't even been able to say her name for 3 years." 4.
Mm.
I'm like, "Oh." It hadn't even occurred to me, but they saw the big change in being able to resolve that trauma just by being in that floating water state for 2 days.
We're losing you sound wise. Did you hear that?
I think it's just a little
Oh,
small.
I
There
got a
you are.
garbage truck. I
Oh.
hope
Oh, you're all good. No,
maybe it's
no.
trying to.
It was
Sorry about that.
It was momentary. You're fine. Don't worry.
So they saw the change before you even knew you went through it.
Right,
That's
right.
beautiful.
I knew things had changed
It's
because
undeniable. Yeah.
when I got in the river was a river. It was this blue thing uh, that my parents and I had used for recreational purposes my whole life. It, but I thought of it very mechanistically. Um, I was taught that as a human being, I am the pinnacle of creation. Um, and so this was a thing that was there for my pleasure. After about 5 days of feeling its power and moving with it, I started calling it Big Blue. And then I had this one on day 6, this wild, beautiful experience where we went through just kind of this gauntlet of 100-foot Douglas firs on either side. And there was this pair of eagles, a female and a male, that when I passed, they started circling me. And my dad, who was the guide boater, he's like, "Hey, stop. You better hope these things don't think you're lunch." And so we just watched it circling me. And we thought they'd fly away, because circling's not that unusual. But as I swam, they would circle, but they just followed me the whole way, circling. And then every 45 minutes, I had to get out, and warm up, like I've told you. And they roosted. And we thought, that's odd.
That's
And
awesome.
then when I started, they circled. This thing went on for over 3.5 hours. And then when I ended up in Corvallis, I talked to a news crew and they circled us the entire time. And as soon as the newscast was done, they flew off. This thing lasted just forever.
Wow.
And one of the old guide boaters, he had been a university professor. He went into this long-winded speech about indigenous culture, and that meant a blessing, and
Mm.
I was going to have a great life, and I was going to heal. And I'm like, okay, Al, but then from that on, then on, I started calling the Willamette Mama River. And then she started just kind of whispering to me and impressing these comforting thoughts. And everybody's like, how did you do it? And after day 6, I just wanted to, because I just kind of wanted to hear that comfort and feel the power. And my dad, who was a fundamentalist Christian, a Marine, and I don't know if you've known many Marines, but you talk to anybody in any force and they're like, oh, I was in the Army, or oh, I was in the Air Force. You talk to a Marine, I am a Marine. They never outgrow it.
Forever.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah. And by day 18, we hadn't seen anybody on the river, but we started getting close to Portland and we started seeing people, in speedboats come by and carve up the river. And it just seemed profane that they would not be thinking about the waterfowl or the fish or the river itself. And I noticed my visceral reaction, like, how dare you carve up Mama River like this? And out of my dad, before I had anything to say, my dad's like, I can't believe they'd be so disrespectful. And I'm like, oh, it was no big deal to me. And he's like, I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about the river, about the river, Dean. And I'm like, wow, it's even kind of sunk into his bones, this shift. And I found that if I can get anybody routinely outdoors, even if it's just in their garden, right around week 3, there's a huge, massive shift in the way they look at themselves, at life, at this beautiful planet we're on. One of my favorite quotes is by Jacques Cousteau. He said, "You protect what you love." And I think we're going about environmentalism wrong. I think we're trying to fight this war in an angry sort of way rather than just get people outside and let them fall in love. And then they're going to naturally protect what they love. So, yeah.
Yeah. I just had the privilege of experiencing pretty much to the date what you just said about the 3 week point where I went. I told you I took your book to Costa Rica with me,
Oh,
and
yeah.
my intention going to Costa Rica for that exact trip was earthing. It was literally foresting, but in the jungle.
Wow.
And I week 3, I had a shift and I was supposed to come back. And I extended for a month
Just
because
really,
I
you're like,
had
yeah, I'm not coming.
I was like too vulnerable. I felt stripped down to my core and I felt how important that was.
Wow.
And I was so grateful. So I had this vision of what I could accomplish while I was there. And the only downfall to these visions is you don't understand how much time they take,
Right.
right? So I thought, a month would be enough time to really strip myself down and dig into something that needed to be purged. I didn't know what it was. I know it's a long process. Healing holistically from cancer is in my slang, it's your detoxing.
Yeah.
And the people that that make it through without any kind of relapse are the ones who pinpoint where the traumatic impacts were in their lives and they address it and they come full circle with it and set it
That's so
free
well said.
and let it go, set it free. Thank you. I thought that's what my problem was what I learned is I wasn't breathing, that my body was suffocating. And that word suffocation had been coming up like repetitively, which is what let me uncover why I carry lymphoma in my body. And getting to Costa Rica, so for my healing, it's an ongoing adventure, and I fucking love it. I love it. This is what I focus on. I focus on what I need to eat, where I need to experience something for my healing. And it's, for me, Costa Rica was a supercharged ground to do it in, where I don't have cameras around me. I don't
Right.
feel the pressures of California to have the Botox or the this. I just needed to get raw and learn who I was back to my core so that I could start over and shake off what doesn't apply anymore. Right. But it took 3 weeks for me to get naked, so to speak. And once I was naked, I was like, I can't go back there now. Like, and you put that you said the same thing. It takes, so the time is, you have to allow yourself time and patience and kindness to heal in this way.
Yeah, I tell everybody we heal at the pace of nature, and it's not fast enough for our fast food culture. Things take time.
Yeah.
Yeah, do.
Amen. And we're worth it.
Yeah.
Bottom line.
But if you look at most cancer journeys, a lot of folks are doing chemo and radiation for the rest of their lives, on and off, or for a year or two or three. And it doesn't, nature can heal you faster than that. I'm living proof of that.
Well, aside from faster than that, you have such a beautiful quality of life. You're not in a
Really,
bed feeling like you want to die.
no.
You're,
And I don't have
there's
any
this,
long term neuropathy or anything like that,
yeah,
where I would
exactly.
have if I would have done. And a lot of people think I'm anti chemo and radiation. I'm not. I would have done it. But I told, one of the things I did tell my docs is, I consider chemo and radiation the atom bomb. And you don't go into the first battle dropping the bomb. You wait till there's no other choice. And
Right.
so I said, if it's really, if we got no other options and we can't find anything else, then I'll do it. And luckily, the ones I did end up working with were really kind about it and said, okay, we don't really agree, but
Right.
we understand where you're going. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
It's everyone. The bottom line, in my opinion, is you pick something and you get right with it,
right,
and then go give it your all, you
right.
know, but it doesn't mean it's what I'm doing, you know, and every bit of it is going to be hard work. So don't think you're going to go through a quick fix. If you do, it might not end up right, you know?
And that's what most cancer patients start with, is they want it done. They want it done quickly, and they never want to have to think about it again because they don't want to be afraid again or still.
It's,
And I've seen some of them spend the rest of their lives doing what I call chasing the cure. And that's really when things really poignantly changed for me. I mean, there in 2013, like I told you, I was dying. And I thought, you know, I all of us have been taught to fight cancer. And, I was raised in the 60s and I'm not real proud of it, but I was a scrapper and I got in a lot of fights. And there were a lot that I realized not to get in because I knew the guy had kicked my ass. Um, and so I'd be more quiet and walk away. And I realized, wait a minute, I'm getting my ass kicked here. This is not a fair fight. It won't ever be a fair fight. What am I doing? And so I decided to trade fighting cancer for a loving life. And
Mm,
my life was anything but lovable at the time. But I found a way to focus on it in ways to make it lovable because there were things that were still lovable. I still had a daughter. She was still wonderful. I still had my brain kind of. I was still curious. There were things I could still be grateful for. Um, the mountains were still here. Rivers were still here and they're still beautiful, and I'd missed them for 34 years. So there were lovable things, even when my life would have been termed anything but unlovable, that I could find to love. And when I decided to love life rather than fight cancer, that's when everything changed.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that'll be the headline.
That'll be the title of our
Yeah,
episode,
that's awesome.
with your
Good.
permission.
Beautifully said.
I like that a lot better than Dean's head is too big to fit in a
In a
microwave.
microwave. I don't know. That's a close second.
Oh my God, that was perfect.
Ben, do you have any last thoughts before we wrap this up? Any burning desires
Not,
here?
not burning desires. I think just more to impart appreciation for your time, and you've done a hell of a lot of episodes, and we appreciate you having us. But I think it's what you share and how you share it is, I think, imperative for people. And I think we pulled some really cool moments from you today. And
Oh, good. Good.
yeah, no,
Yeah, I think
beautiful
you
moments.
did too. 370 is going to stick out of my mind because usually these are like an hour,
Yeah,
and we've gone like
two and a half.
2.5.
Yeah,
Is this the
And
longest
so
one you've done?
thank you for giving me the time and the gentle care and the curious questions. You've drawn more out of me than just about anybody ever. So thank you.
I do have one thing actually. If you had one message to be known for or one message to impart, if you could get a microphone and a speaker to every person's ear, what's the one thing you would say?
Uh, boy, yeah. Uh, Life sometimes gets shitty. No matter how strategically or how carefully or how intelligently you've tried to curate it, shit happens. And sometimes it's supposed to happen. Who knows? But face it and find a way to not only face it, to love it. And you can't really do any of that apart from the source. And the source is the earth. Yeah. The reason, we talked earlier about me not being proud of my cancer journey, because I was just swimming a river. Okay. Kind of as one last act, not knowing, and I still don't know. It was interesting for me to find out about fourth phase water because here it is, 11 years later, I'm just finding new reasons and new ways in which I put myself in this environment that healed me beyond anything I knew at the time. And anytime you go into nature, it is going to be beyond your wildest expectation and beyond your ability to understand all that's happening to you.
This is
So, yeah,
this is what the focus was of that being proud. It's the fact that you trust your own inner guidance to do something differently.
Right.
I think you should be proud of that. You are brave. You took your life into your own hands based on an instinct. Bravo.
yeah,
Like that's it's something I don't usually, like, I can't remember the last time I said I was proud of something
yeah,
over and over again. But this, when I reflect on what I've done in the last couple of years and where I was and where I am now based on my instincts, I am
right.
fucking proud of that. And I really think you should reconsider because I'm proud of you
Well, I
and I'm
think you
proud of you
were
for
a
sharing
bit
it.
more intentional. I just,
I was
I
desperate.
was,
I was desperate.
yeah, me too. I didn't want to go out sitting on a couch watching Wheel of Fortune.
Same thing. Same thing. I was
Yeah,
desperate for a different way. And
right.
that's it. I'm proud that I sought a different way. Period. That's it. And I applaud you for doing the same thing and for sharing it because if we aren't connecting and sharing our stories,
Right.
where are we? Like, we've got to talk about this shit. If you and I can help end suffering in any way, some suffering, that's this 2.5 wowie talk. This 2.5 hour podcast was well worth it if it was just one person,
I hope
you
so.
know?
Yeah.
It just, and you don't have to take everything we say. You find your version of that. You find what your body aligns with and just take your power back and fucking go for it. It's your life. And by the way, if you want to die, do that your way too. Don't do it in a bed and with full of regret and longing to be somewhere else. Go be that somewhere else if you can. Just
That's kind
get
of what
out
I
of
thought
there.
I was doing.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah.
See? Yeah.
I thought, well, I'm going to die anyway. Might as well die this way rather than a
Yeah.
sad, pathetic little, frail version. Just kind of drying up and blowing away, and my daughter watching this thing.
There's just because you said those words, this podcast, and I know your intention is not to make anyone feel small because of their choices.
No.
Fear is a big thing and it's debilitating. And I'd like to inspire even the people that are maybe in a hospital bed doing it that way,
Been there many times.
but there's always if you have another breath, you have another choice to make. And
Right.
if you want to go home, please go home. Please get out of there. You don't have to die in a hospital. You may be dying, but at least do your last breath your way and don't
Right.
take no for an answer, right? Is that what they say? What is the like we've always been saying it wrong. What's the normal saying? You only die once?
Well,
You only live once.
you live once. People say something around the effect of most people. Most people
I think they say you
live
only
and die
live
with have never lived or whatever it is. It's something about like living a life but never having lived. I
Right,
forget the
yeah.
exact term, but
Yeah.
yeah. But like the general term is you only live once.
You only live once. So I don't know. I think
I'm not sure
I
that's
think you, I
totally
think
true.
you
I don't
might
believe it.
die
I don't
once.
believe that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you
Anyway.
live multiple times. Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
I failed that
No,
that landing.
it's all good.
But
That's
all
the
that
nice thing about Ben editing this.
Ah, yes.
Thank you,
it.
Ben.
Yeah, my pleasure, man.
Is there, and by the way, just having said that, if there's anything you prefer edited out, please let us know.
No.
Okay.
No, you guys were wonderful and so easy to talk to, and you just were so gracious. You use this how you want to use this and do what you want to do with it, and I'm good.
Great.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Shall we say a farewell?
Say our farewell.
Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me. It's just been delightful. It really has.
Agreed. And happy trails to you.
Happy trails.
Okay. You guys too. All right.
Thank
Take
you
care.
so much. Bye.
All right. Bye-bye.